Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Pastor Manny here, and this is a ministry we have here called Looking Up, where every Wednesday I share an encouraging thought for the day and for the week. And this is the past couple of looking ups that I've had. We've been talking about do not judge, and this is found in Matthew 7 verses 1 through 5. And what we've been learning is that when Jesus says do not judge, he actually means that it's okay to judge in the sense of discernment, right? Or discerning a right from wrong. But it's not okay to judge in the sense of condemning. We have no right to condemn anyone. Only God is judge, right? So, and in addition, he also goes to this. He also talks about removing a speck from someone's eye, right? And what he wants from that is when we are removing a speck from someone's eye, we must do it very carefully, right? We're not going to get a hammer, we're not going to get a knife or a fork or anything like that. No, we're going to get like a tissue paper, right? We're going to use our finger very gently, right? So when we are trying to remove a speck from someone's eye, we must do it with love, with care, and with gentleness, right? And this next part, this final part, this part 3, Jesus is going to tell us how we can do that, all right? And Jesus goes a little further with the metaphor, and I'm going to go ahead and read it. It's Matthew 7, verses 1 through 5. Okay, Matthew 7, verses 1 through 5. And let me get there really quick. Okay, Matthew 7, verses 1 through 5. And Jesus is talking about the kind of culture, the kind of relationships he desires from his people. Okay, Matthew 7, 1 through 5 says, "Do not judge so that you may not be judged. For with the judgment you make, you will be judged, and the measure you give will be measured back to you. Why do you see the speck in your neighbor's eye, but do not notice the log in your own eye? Or how can you say to your neighbor, 'Let me take the speck out of your eye,' while the log is in your own eye? You hypocrite, first take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your neighbor's eye." All right, so Jesus is talking about a person that is coming and that desires to remove the speck out of someone's eye, but in reality, that person has a log in their own eye. So imagine if you have a speck in your eye and you see somebody coming to help you remove the speck from your eye, but they have a log in their own, right? You think that would kind of be funny, right? Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't trust the person, actually. That's what I would be thinking. And so Jesus is talking about a person, people, right? He's talking about people who are far more aware of other people's flaws than their own. They are super sensitive to the wrongs of other people's sins, but not their own. Jesus is saying, unless we see our sins as greater than any other people's sins, we won't be able to help them. And don't we know our hearts better than anyone else's? So then why don't we see our own pettiness, our own selfishness, our own pride greater than anyone else's, right? Well, it's probably because there is something really wrong with our hearts, right? And I totally agree with that. If we know our hearts better than anyone else, and yet other people's sins are greater than our own, then this shows that there is disorder in our hearts. This shows that there is something drastically wrong with our hearts. Jesus is saying if we want to help people with their own sins, we must first realize that our sins are greater than anyone else's. And what's in our eye should look huge to us. And then when we do realize this, when we do recognize this, then we can go and speak the truth and love with people, right? So do we have a community like this? That's a good question for us to ask. Are we people that operate like this? Well, let's assume no, okay? We are actually from a shame and honor culture where what's more important is saving face. And these are not good places for telling the truth, right? This is probably why a lot of people don't feel comfortable telling the truth in church or sharing things in their lives in church, because we live in a shame and honor culture, right? People are afraid to tell the truth. People don't tell the truth, or when they do, they get traumatized by it, or they feel ostracized, right? Or maybe we're a child of the modern Western culture where we can never criticize anyone because it's considered hateful. right? So no culture serves us well here. We live in a culture that pushes us away from the culture that God desires, where we can come to people with gentleness, with love and with care, and remove the speck from someone's eye, right? But on the one hand, our culture tells us that if we say anything wrong to people, it's hateful, or if we say something about the things that people are doing are wrong, then it's hateful. And then we live in an internet culture, right, where anything goes. You can just flamethrow people with hate, with words of hate, with messages of hate, images of hate, right? And then things that we normally wouldn't say face to face or on the phone to a person, we can use the internet for that, right? This culture pushes us in both of these ways. No culture serves us well. We need help. We need desperate help. This is not the culture that God desires, right? A culture that God desires is for us to see the sin, to see the plank in our own eye as greater than anyone else's sin. Then we can come lovingly, then we can come gently and remove the speck from our brother and sister's eye. This is a culture that God desires. All right, so that's all I just wanted to share with you all today and for this week. I hope you're all having a blessed week. Stay safe, take care, and this is a culture that God desperately desires. And I believe this is a culture that really shows love and care for people, not just on the inside, but on the outside as well. All right, God bless, take care, and have an awesome week.